This is the first episode of Drunk Game Retellings. My name is Jack, and I am the host/creator of the show. Since this is the first episode, I felt it was only appropriate to kind of explain the premise of the show, because if I don't, then no one's going to have any hell of an idea of what I'm talking about. So essentially, the point of this podcast is that I or someone else will be retelling an experience they had with a video game while also being drunk, hence, drunk game retellings. So it may just be, the entire game story, it may be the story and the gameplay, it's whatever the drunk person may be doing. But the point is, that's what the main segment of the show is about. Now, the second segment is actually something I call Tipsy Talk, where myself and the storyteller and, possibly other guests too, may all talk about this specific video game that happens this week, or this month, or whenever we release episodes. And so, without further ado, I would like to introduce my friend Peter, who retold Psychonauts this week while intoxicated. Take it away, Peter.
Okay, it is time to talk about the classic 2005 video game Psychonauts that was released for the PlayStation 2, the Xbox, the original one, and the personal computer system of computers. Anyway, this is a game by Double Fine Studios, with the director-ish person, creative guy Tim Schafer, known for many games, including things like Day of the Tentacle, that I used to play as a young child, and more recent stuff like Broken Age, that I play as a child trapped in a gross adult's body. Anyway, Psychonauts, game from 2005, is a 3D action adventure / some platforming game that I remember playing back when I was about 13 years old, me being a current 23-year-old and the game being released 10 years ago. Congratulations, Psychonauts, you're 10 years old. And in this game, you play the character Rasputin, also known as Raz, R-A-Z, Rasputin Aquato, and you are trying to master your psychic abilities at this camp for psycho-powered youngsters who are very gifted in the psychic abilities like telekinesis and psychic punching. And you are there because you want to become a psychonaut, which is like a secret agent, but with psychic abilities. And you think you got what it takes because you got some natural psychic abilities, but your dad doesn't like psychics, so he won't let you train, so you had to run away and join it. So as Raz, you ran away from the circus, and you came to this camp, Silent Spring, Silent Rock, Silent Something camp, where you learn psychic abilities from teachers who are psychonauts. They're crazy secret agents with mind-bending powers, and you want to do what they can do. So you show up there during campfire, and you're like, "What's up? I'm in this camp now." And they're like, "Okay, you can be in this camp for like 2 days, but we call your dad because you need to have a parent's permission, because that's how motherfucking summer camps work. You can't just go to a camp and be like, I'm part of this now. No camp is like that. You got to tell them you're coming. Parents got to pay money, or at least sign a waiver or some shit, and then they'll let you in." And Raz is just totally went around that. He circumvented it. And so they're like, "Okay, you can hang out with us for a couple of days. We'll teach you some psychic stuff, but when your dad gets here from the circus, you're going to have to go back with him and his stupid psychic hating self. And you're like, man, that stinks, but I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to run around and learn as much as I can in like 2 days. And then I'm going to be a kick-ass psychic. And then the Psychonauts, the secret agents, are going to want me to join them as a 10-year-old. Foolproof. So, you wake up on the first day. You are Raz. And the first thing you got to do is go through the crazy mind of one of your teachers as a obstacle course. It's called basic braining instead of basic training. And you're going through Coach Oleander, who's like a mix of a potato and General Patton from World War II. Just those two things put together. And you're jumping into his brain and you're running around this crazy like battlefield and shit. And you're using your psychic abilities like psychic punches and crazy jumps and shit. And your acrobatic abilities from being in the circus, like spinning around on trapezes and other such nonsense. And you realize that Coach Oleander is 1, obsessed with meat, and 2, totes into bunnies, which is unusual for potato/Patton men, potato-atin men. So, you're running around there, and you finish that, and you kick butt, good job, you're on your way to becoming a psychic, awesome dude. Next thing you gotta do, you're running around the camp, talking to all these stupid kids that are there, and I can't remember all these kids' names, but there are a lot of them, and they all have their own crazy personalities, because Tim Schafer puts time and effort into his shit, along with the people he works with. So there's all kinds of folks that all seem to be developed in some way, but I can't remember all their names. So the important ones, you got Billy and Bobby, who are the bullies. You know, you got the whole triple B thing going on. They're dicks. They can go fuck themselves. And then you got Lily, who is this little girl, also 10, also super psychic. And you're totes into her, she's totes into you. She seems to be, you know, maybe a little bit more into you eventually. Comes off a little abrasive, like, you know, the classic camp crush stuff going on. And then there's little Dogan, who's my favorite random kid character because he can like accidentally explode people's heads if he doesn't wear his tinfoil cap, and he likes to talk to squirrels. So there's, you know, what's not to like about that kind of kid? He's great. He's wonderful. So there's all these kids running around. They get into antics. They don't like each other all the time. So if you go to different parts of the camp early on, you'll see them doing their own camp shiz. And so you start trying to get extra training from the other counselors / psychonaut people, including Sasha, who will eventually teach you how to shoot laser beams with your brain. And he'll give you the marksmanship badge for shooting stuff with your brain, side blasts. And then you go to the lady friend lady, Mila, who's another counselor and Psychonaut lady, and she's going to teach you how to do levitation, which in this game is basically just rolling around on a giant-ass beach ball and bouncing around on like yoga ball shit, but it's made out of psychic powers, which is pretty cool in theory and looks kind of goofy in the game, but you know, it works. It lets you bounce around, it lets you roll around, it's fun. NBD. So you learn those abilities, and you realize that you're having these crazy dreams and, you know, thoughts about kids at the camp getting their brains, taken out of their heads by an evil dentist guy. And you're like, whoa, why am I having these thoughts? This is crazy. I don't want to take people's brains out. Why am I having these feelings from somewhere else? Maybe there's somebody planning to do this shit to the children, and that wouldn't be too cool. That's not nice. You shouldn't take little psychic baby brains out and do something with them. So you're talking to Sasha, the guy who taught you how to shoot, and you're like, yo, I'm having these crazy feelings. And so he goes into your brain with this crazy brain machine, and you go in there too, and you realize, oh man, this is clearly somebody's evil plot to steal psychic kid brains and use them for nefarious deeds, like putting them into a tank or something to make them shoot psychic blasts at innocent folks and whatnot. And that ain't too cool. You're not into that. You don't want anything to do with that. You want to stop it. So you're like, yo, I'm Raz. Sasha, you gotta help me stop this shit. And Sasha's like, okay, you need to go talk to Ford Cruller. And Ford Cruller is this old guy in charge of the Psychonauts at the camp. He has his own crazy secret lair that you go to, and then you realize he's this guy who's been posing as like the cook and the groundskeeper and the boatmaster around camp. And he might have like multiple personalities disorder, but he's actually like a super powerful psychic psychonauty dude. And you're like, all right, Ford Cruller, I need your help. And Ford's like, okay, I'll help you, but yeah, I'm also going to train you on how to do some shit. So he gives you a bunch of instructions on things, and he gives you instructions later in the game too, as you get more abilities. Shit like pyrokinesis, where you set stuff on fire, and telekinesis when you move stuff, and clairvoyance. I think he teaches you clairvoyance, which is where you like see stuff through other people's eyes, and there's some other things that he teaches you, like confusion and invisibility, which are helpful later on in the game. So he's like your pal along the way, and you're like, fuck yeah, Ford Cruller, you're gonna help me go kick some ass. And so eventually what happens is this. You are Raz, and you're talking to Lily, and you've both devised that somebody is stealing kids' brains, because you keep running into kids who are going TV, like they're turning into zombies and shit. And they have their brains missing. Like they look through the ear and they just see the other ear straight through there. They lost their eardrums too, not just their brains. So you're like, oh shit, all these kids are going brainless. And you and Lily, your little boo thing, are like, fuck, what are we gonna do? And then she's talking about shit like, yo Raz, we should make out. But also I'm super excited about this crazy mystery. This is insane. And Raz is like, yeah, this is crazy. And then suddenly, bam, she's kidnapped by a giant evil monster fish. And you're like, ah, fuck, I totally forgot there was a giant monster fish that lives in this lake on the campsite. And you're like, okay, I need to go in after her to try and save her from the giant lungfish monster that... Why it's kidnapping kids? I don't know, but it took Lily, and I like Lily. She's my boo thing, and she's like the only other camper that still has a brain. So, you know, I gotta hold on to that for what it is. So you're like, okay, I'm gonna go underwater. And you go underwater, and you fight the lungfish, which is like this big, like, Frankenstein, blobby monster dude, but also a fish. And you punch its fucking brains out. And then Ford comes in through your head, because he can talk to you through his head, because he's a psychic and you're a psychic. He's like, yo, I think somebody messed up this poor little lungfish. You should go in its brain and help it. And you're like, okay, Ford, I'm going to go in its brain. And so you jump in its brain, and then what happens is it's like this crazy kaiju movie where you're the kaiju, the giant evil monster dude, and you're going like, rah! And you're destroying Lungfishopolis. There's this little town populated by nothing but like mini lungfish in this fish's head. Oh shit, did I even mention? You go in people's brains. That's how you do stuff. So like, whereas if you were dealing with somebody who was like super depressed or super crazy in some other way, instead of like giving them lithium or like talking to them, or, you know, shocking them or whatever the fuck people do nowadays, you, like, jump in their heads and you start punching shit, and then they start feeling better. It makes total sense. So anyway, you jump into this lungfish's head being like, okay, I'm going to help this lungfish out because he's been mutated by evil people. And so you're in his head, and you're this giant monster, and you're, like, destroying this city, but you're also trying to help him get over his crazy. And the way you get over his crazy is that you fight another giant monster that's Coach Oleander. Oh shit, spoiler alert. Coach Oleander is like the total bad guy who wants to take over this lungfish and maybe the kid's brains. I don't know, you're still working out some of this stuff, and you're like, what? How can Coach be evil? He's a psychonaut. This can't be right. What? So after you, like, wreck shit in this fish's brain city, you straight up, like, fight Coach Oleander in this crazy, like, Ultraman, Gamera, Godzilla, Kaiju battle. And it's fun, and you kick his butt. And then you're like, bam, I saved the lungfish. And then at the end of the level, you pop out of the lungfish's head. And the lungfish is like, thank you so much. By the way, my name is Linda. Yeah, this fish's name is Linda. And so you're like, oh man, I feel pretty good. I saved this mutated fish's life. He's not a slave to the coach anymore. Or the crazy dentist guy that's sucking out people's brains like I saw in my dreams. So that's cool. And Linda's like, yo, I'm going to take you to this crazy island in the middle of the lake on the side of the camp. And on this island is the motherfucking asylum that used to be there back in olden times. Way back in the day, there was this asylum in this little town that they then flooded and turned into the lake. But the asylum is still there on this island. So you wind up on this asylum, and first person you run into is this crazy guy who looks like a postal worker. And he introduces himself. He's talking about a milkman. He's all deranged and kind of fucked up. And you're like, oh shit, what am I going to do? I can't get in the building. The gate's locked. And this guy's just like chattering to no one on the outside of this crazy asylum. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to jump in this guy's brain and work out some of his shit for him. So, this is cheap ass vodka. Ooh. Anyway, no word to the wise. Don't buy Jewel Osco brand vodka. Oh man. Okay. So, you're talking to this postal worker guy who's like a straight up milkman, or he's talking about a milkman or some shit. And you're like, okay, I'm going to go in his brain and try and help him out. And so you hop in his brain, and shit is batshit crazy. He's all into conspiracy theories. Everything's all crazy. Everyone's spying on him in his house. He's trying to figure out who the fuck the milkman is and what he's doing. And you're like, oh man, this is some batshit stuff. He's really crazy. It's not just, jumping into the coach's brain or Sasha's brain. This guy is straight up delusional. So you're running around, and you got to figure out the puzzle, which is, everything's all topsy-turvy. There's like, the G-men are looking at you, and they're like, yo, what are you doing? We are part of the road crew, but we are secretly spying on shit. Do you know anything about the milkman? And you're like, oh, fuck, I need to blend in with these suckers. So you have to get different props to blend in at different points on the level. And that's how you progress through the level. Shit happens, and you're like, stop sign. Look, I'm an assassin too, just like these other assassins. And throughout the level, you're like fucking running into these little Girl Scout cookie bitches. And they're like, you want to buy some cookies? You're creepy. Get away from me. And you're like, okay, that's weird. And then at like the motherfucking end of the level, you realize that all these little girls are like run by some like crazy alien who worships the milkman and sells cookies to go for the milkman. And then you fight that alien lady as the boss. And then you're like, bam, I beat you. And then you pop out of the guy's head. And he's still pretty crazy. Like, he's still chattering about being a milkman or some shit. But he seems like a little bit better, and he lets you into the asylum, and you're like, bam, boom, mission done. Fuck yeah, go me. That's great. And he's about to, like, fucking firebomb the whole building. And you're like, oh shit, that's weird. But he's just, like, standing there holding it instead of actually throwing it. It's a little weird to just hold a, Molotov cocktail in your hand going, I am the milkman. But he does it. It's his own thing. It's cool. No worries. No judgment. And then you're walking around the asylum, at least the lower part, and you're on this crazy actress lady. And you're like, okay, this lady's pretty nuts. She thinks you're stealing her awards or something. And she's like in a little greenhouse. And you're like, okay, I'm going to jump in her brain, see what's up with this lady. And so you jump into her brain, and she is like this crazy actress who's dealing with like sadness and happiness on this stage, and there's this like inner spirit of hers that's all in kind of a funk. So you gotta help this thing out, and then you're like, yo, how can I help? And she's like, there's a phantom going on, blah, blah, blah. So you're running around trying to find this phantom, and you're dealing with like this crazy stage play that you're putting on of this lady's memories as an actress, and it's kind of depressing as fuck. And you can make it either like a comedy or a tragedy, which totally reframes the situation either way. And you end up finding this like phantom that is also the critic, and it's nutso, and you end up curing her of some of her insanity. And you're like, bam, you're welcome, lady. And she's like, oh, thank you so much. And then you get into the next part of the asylum, and you're just kind of working your way up this building, trying to figure out what the fuck's going on here. This seems to be the main crux of everything. I remember seeing an asylum in my dream where the crazy dentist guy is ripping out people's brains and shit. So I think I'm in the right place right now. And then you come across this guy who, if you ever watch Futurama, you remember whenever Bender went crazy, he would like dress up like Napoleon and shit. And apparently that's a thing. I'm probably missing a reference from something. I've never seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I don't know what's going on. But this guy's dressed up straight up like Napoleon. And he's running around like, I am Napoleon Bonaparte. And you jump into his head to, help him out because you're a good psychonaut and you like to help people who are crazy. And you learn that he is Fred Bonaparte, a long descendant of the Bonaparte family, all the way down from like the French pseudo-royalty or whatever you want to call Napoleon and his crew. And you're like, okay, this guy went kind of nuts. And you figure out, oh man, this guy used to be an orderly at the asylum, one of the bouncer fucking dude, the bodyguard guys. But he went crazy when dealing with one of the other, patients there. And he's haunted by the spirit of his Napoleonic ancestor. And so you hop in his brain, and it's just him and Napoleon Bonaparte fucking playing like Settlers of Catan or some bullshit. They're playing a board game. And you're like, whoa, why are they just playing a board game in this guy's mind, this crazy guy's mind? And so you're like, okay, how can I help? And Fred is like, okay, if you help me beat Napoleon, I'll probably be less crazy because I won't feel as guilty about being a total failure and lunatic. And so you're like, okay, I'm going to help you, Fred. So you shrink down onto the board and you're helping him beat Napoleon. You're running around all these hexagons and stuff, getting people to help fight for you, these soldiers, and taking down Napoleon, and then storming his castle with this knight guy. And you end up kicking butt as usual, as you do in most levels, because this is a video game. And then you're like, bam, I saved you, Fred. And Fred's like, oh man, I beat my inner demon of my ancestor that is Napoleon Bonaparte. Thank you so much, Rasputin. And you're like, no probs, yo. Just be less crazy. And it's the debt repaid. So you hop out of this guy's brain, and he's chasing down the guy who used to taunt him when he was head orderly, talking about strangling him or some shit. We don't really know what happens, but, we can assume that guy got choked and shit. And so you save that guy, and you're like, oh man, I'm helping so many people in this weird abandoned asylum. I feel so good. And then you get to one more dude, and he looks kind of like the guy from a later game by Tim Schafer called Brutal Legend. He's like this big stocky dude. He's like distinctly a Spaniard, and he's painting, but he's always painting like bowls and shit on top of his portraits, which isn't good because you don't want to put bowls on stuff unless you meant to. And he's like plagued by this inner demon that is a giant Toro bull. And so you're like, okay, I'm going to hop in this dude's mind and fucking help him. So you're like, bam, I'm in there. And you're in like this weird like neo-Spain, Mexico place where it's like everything's neon and everything's luchador. And then there are bulls running around. And so you have to help him fight his motherfucking demon. And he's like, oh man, I was left by this girl who ran off with like one of the bullfighter dudes, whatever they're called. And that ain't too cool. You know, it's not nice when you get left by some lady for a bullfighter. And so you're helping him work out his shit. He's a wonderful painter, so his place is like the most artistic level. His name is Edgar, and there are like dogs and shit painting just different stuff in his mind. And you run around, you help him collect cards to build this tower to save the lady of his dreams. And then what happens is you have to fight the guy, the bullfighter dude who like stole her away from him in the first place. And so you have to like fight him and the bull at the same time and like trick one into being the bull, and Edgar's really the bull, and then his delusion is that the bullfighter and the lady were actually just like straight up cheerleaders together in high school, and he's just got like these weird delusions of them being like Spanish people, or they are Spanish, but they're not actually bullfighter and fair maiden or whatever. So you're just like, oh man, this is kind of fucked up. But I'm going to fight this bull that is really Edgar, and I'm going to fight this luchador guy / bullfighter guy who's just a total dick. And so you beat that, and Edgar's like, oh man, I'm feeling a lot better, and I'm not plagued by this evil bull running around in my brain. That's so much better. Thank you so much, Rasputin. And you're like, no problem, bro. And you're like, man, I've helped save so many random people in this asylum. I must be getting close to the end. Good news. You totally are. So, after you help Edgar, you work your way up to, like, the top of the fucking asylum. And you're, like, climbing this big, crazy tower. And it's really fucking difficult because there are, like, little exploding rats everywhere. And that's fucking annoying because rats don't normally explode. And you're running around, and you keep seeing this little creature, like, out of the corner of your eye going, eek! And then, like, hiding. And you're like, okay, I gotta keep following it. And eventually, you catch it, and it's Shigor, who is a lady Igor, who's been working for the evil dentist guy, who's been working for Coach Oleander. So, you enlist this lady to like help you out because she's like deranged as fuck, but she knows how to like take brains in and out of people's heads really good. And she's really upset because her beloved turtle, Mr. Pokélopes, is like straight up hanging out with the evil dentist guy, or kidnapped by the evil dentist guy. And so you gotta help her like get the turtle back so that she can help you out. And in the meantime, you find Sasha and Mila, two of the instructors in Psychonauts, like strapped up to a board and getting, fucked up with their brains out. And you're like, okay, I gotta help them find their brains, because you've been finding brains the entire time in the asylum. All the kids' brains are all over the place. And you pick them up one at a time, and you're like, oh, hello, brain of person. I'm going to keep you safe and warm because my name is Rasputin. And so you do that. And you help get, their brains back together. And you help get Pokélopes back for the fucking Shigor. And so you go to Shigor and you're like, yo, I saved Pokélopes, your turtle, and I found some brains. Will you help me out? And she goes, yes, of course. And she's voiced by the same person who does Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls. And it's totally obvious, and it's really weird if you're familiar with the Powerpuff Girls. Because she's like this crazy hunchback character. And she's like, let me talk to my turtle first. And then the turtle starts talking, Mr. Pokélopes. And he's like, oh yeah, baby, I'm going to take care of everything. Which is bizarre, because normally turtles don't talk. And if you did imagine a turtle talking, I don't know how you picture it, but I don't normally picture it sounding like Barry White or something. Anyway, this was an interesting development in the story. So Shigor's like, I'm going to help you out and shit. Mr. Pokélopes has a plan to beat Mr. Dr. Lobato. Dr. Lobato is the dentist guy. He's a dentist, not an actual doctor. And so that's kind of messed up. Because he's just taking people's brains out. So what you do is you take Mr. Pokélopes' brain and you throw it into the brain chute, which puts it into a tank. And then the Mr. Pokélopes tank, the brain tank, like straight up blasts the evil dentist dude, Dr. Lobato, straight out of the building. And you're like, fuck yeah, take you down, motherfucker. And they're like, boom, we are so great. But then Coach Oleander shows up, and he straight up starts fighting with, like, Sasha and Mila. You're like, oh, fuck, this is intense. You know, it's Psychonaut v. Psychonaut. This is messed up. Why does Coach Oleander even want to take over the world with crazy psychic weapons? You don't really know. They don't explain that entirely. And then what happens is, you know, it looks like Sasha and Mila beat him, but then bang, Coach Oleander comes back in like a giant robot tank, but he's just a brain. And you're like, okay, I gotta take him down. I'm a 10-year-old. I don't know much. I've only been training for like 10 hours, 24 hours. But I gotta take down this guy and this giant robot tank. And you like throw some rocks at it and shit, and you know, avoid his attacks. Like most boss fights, you avoid shit, occasionally hit him. It keeps going like that. And then you're like, bam! But then what happens is, you accidentally sneeze your brain out. Oh no! So your brain and Coach Oleander's brain are like straight up mind melding, you know, Spock style from Star Trek 2 when he did that with Kirk. So you guys are like overlapping and you jump into your thoughts there. And it's weird because you see Coach Oleander as a child, and Coach Oleander as a child is like a mix between a potato and a kid who really likes bunnies. So he's like running around like, hi, I'm Ole. I like bunnies, but my dad, the butcher, really wants to kill my bunny. And you're like, oh man, that's not cool. I'm going to help this chubby little potato kid save his bunny from his evil butcher dad. So you're running around, and then it's mixed with your brain, so everything's like a circus, but it's covered in meat because his dad's a butcher. So it's your dad because it's a circus, it's his dad because it's a butcher. And you end up saving his bunny several times from like these weird meat monsters, and you help him out. But then what happens is the spirit of his dad in his brain goes all nutso and is starting to like chop at you and shit. And it's one of the boss fights. You're just like, I'm going to take you down. So you run around, you avoid his attacks, you hop up on him and punch the shit out of him and stuff. And it's all good. But then what happens is somehow your dad, your figment of your dad gets in the mix. And he's like, ho ho ho, Rasputin, I am a great acrobat. You should be a great acrobat too. And then you're like doing flips and shit to appease your dad. And then what happens is eventually your actual dad jumps into the mix. He's like, yo, Rasputin, where you been? Why'd you run away from home? I don't actually hate sidekicks. I love you, son. Give me a hug. I just was worried about you. I wanted you to be safe because we got a curse and shit. And you're like, oh man, my dad doesn't actually hate me. But then what happens in the meantime is that your figment of your dad, Rasputin's dad, and the figment of Oleander's dad like meld together, and it's this crazy double-headed fighter guy who is like chopping shit and running around and super intense, and you have to just, you know, get like super huge and beat him occasionally. You're like, take that, motherfucker, take that. And eventually you do beat him because it's a video game, so it's presumed that you beat everything. And so you beat the evil butcher acrobat dad, and you're like, yeah, I helped Coach Oleander's brain, and that he's less crazy now because he can deal with his own, you know, emotions about his father and his father's desire to chop up bunnies and stuff, because that's a little messed up when you're a kid. And so you hop out, and you're talking to your dad and Coach Oleander and the rest of the Psychonauts, and they're like, oh man, that was a crazy adventure. But, good job, Raz. You're like a real psychonaut now and shit. And you're like, yeah, I guess I am. You know what? I am a great psychonaut, but I guess I should go back and live with my dad. But then, bam, suddenly, they're like, oh shit, shit's in trouble. The leader of the Psychonauts just got kidnapped. And Lily's like, oh fuck, that's my dad. So Lily, your boo thing, who you just helped save, and she, is great and all that, her dad is the leader of the Psychonauts and just got kidnapped. You're like, oh fuck, I gotta go help. And you're not wearing your hat anymore because, you finished the game. And so you guys take off in a jet together to go save her dad. And it's like, bam! That's the end of the game. If only there was a second one. But it's been like 10 years and they haven't done anything on that. So I don't know if they're ever going to make another Psychonauts. I would love it if they did. I'd be like the first one to, reserve that shit, pre-buy it. But they haven't announced it, and I don't think it's going to happen. So, who knows? But that's Psychonauts. You saved the day, you helped all the kids get their brains back, and you learned how to jump into people's brains and shit and exercise their psychological demons. That's pretty much it.
Hello! You just listened to a funny little drunk retelling of Psychonauts, but now this is a segment that, for now we're going to call it Tipsy Talk. I have with me the drunk storyteller himself. This is my friend Peter. Say hi, Peter.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, going great, Peter. So we just heard you talk about the delightful game Psychonauts, and you mentioned that you played this when you were 13. Is that correct?
Yeah, I remember playing it back when it came out, 2005, on my wonderful little PS2 that would freeze up all the time.
Oh, really? I actually played my PS2 as well. Yeah, there were a lot of bugs. Kind of, I remember going through that, but the game was just really charming enough
Yeah.
to just kind of keep playing. Do you remember when the game was originally going to be an Xbox exclusive?
No, I don't think I followed stuff enough then, and then looking back through it when I was, going through it recently, I noticed that, oh, it came out for Xbox significantly before it did for PS2, and I was like, oh, that's surprising fact. I never once owned an Xbox of any variety, so I'm glad it came over to PS2, otherwise I probably would have never played it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, well, eventually it would have come to PC years and years later. But
I probably wouldn't have played it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just remembered it just because I used to be that one kid who would have Game Informer subscribed.
Yes.
So I would always be the one to bring him to elementary school and go, yo, guys, it's the new Halo! Oh, shit!
Oh my
But,
gosh.
but in between that, I would always... I don't know. I haven't read a Game Informer in years. I don't know how it works anymore, but I used to always be so pumped by the previews section.
It's about the same. I still get it just because I have like that GameStop power up whatever.
Do they still have like a bunch of previews, or is it?
Yeah. It's pretty much exactly the same magazine, just with like crisper images and slightly nicer layouts.
I would hope so. If it's still around,
Yep.
yeah, I wouldn't want the same 2000s magazine. That'd be awkward. That'd be interesting, but
Definitely.
no. But I mean, it was interesting at the time because it was just at least at that time, there's not game footage and stuff wasn't really as it's not as
Oh
easy to
yeah.
access as it is now. Like YouTube
hmm
wasn't around back then. So
YouTube started in what? Oh, late '05, early '06, something like that.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So it's like so this game like when it was in development when it first like come out, I think that was pre YouTube.
Mm.
Like I remember the only time I could find like vintage of video games was game trailers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was way back then.
I don't even
But
know how I heard about this game now that I think back to it. Like, I can remember how I first heard about Pokemon. I remember how I first heard about, like, the Nintendo 64. I have no idea how I ended up buying Psychonauts and, playing it. So, yeah, that's a total mystery to me at this point.
do you remember perhaps this kind of goes on topic? Was this your first go around with a Double Fine production, or have you played any? Did you play any ones beforehand?
I had played the games before, and I don't know if it was before or after I purchased the game that I realized it was the same people. because I way back, when I was rocking my dad's old Apple computer, I was playing. I played Sam and Max, which I don't think is Tim Schafer, but I played Day of the Tentacle as well, which is
Oh, hell
definitely a Tim
yeah.
Schafer game.
Hmm.
And I loved that game because it was so fucking weird and it was a point and click, and a lot of fun overall. So I had played that first, and then nothing until Psychonauts.
Yeah, I think for the most part, Psychonauts might have been my first, go around with Double Fine. I feel like what really led me to is that I saw some commercials and the guy Raz, who the main
Hmm.
character, he was voiced by the same voice actor did Zim from Invader Zim,
Oh right, yeah,
and that was back when that was like the shit.
yup.
So I was like, oh, this is for me. So
Everyone had a crush on a girl in a Gur hoodie. Come on.
oh, well, of course, yeah. So that game was like my type of shit, and that game is still rad to this day. I got it for Steam like a couple years ago. Like
Hmm.
I don't know why. I think it's just because. Oh, that's right. Because I remember at the time there was some rumors that if people supported it enough, they might have gotten like a sequel or something.
Oh, that would have been great.
Yeah, and that didn't work out. Like there was
Nope.
this whole time when people thought that Notch would help fund the game, and then
Oh.
they kind of realized that game development takes a lot more money than you think it does.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, didn't like Broken Age, the most recent Double Fine game, have like a huge Kickstarter to get it going, and
Oh
that's like
yeah,
that's like a 10-hour point and click game. So imagine doing a full 3D modern platformer action game, sequel to this game that was already 10 years old.
it would be a lot of money like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Because I mean, Broken Age originally it had like 3.3 million, but then it got like even more funding over time because of all the different celebrity.
Yeah.
That's the interesting about a lot of Double Fine games is that there are a lot of recurring voice actors. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure Raz's
Jack
voice
Black.
actor is in Broken Age. He's
He is. He plays I just finished this game today actually. Yeah, he plays like a computer guidance dude.
That's right. I think so. Then he also doesn't he play the dad of the cloud people?
No, Dad of the Cloud People is Jack Black.
Oh no, not I'm talking about the guru. I'm talking about like the guy who's married to
Oh,
the bait
I think
lady.
so. I think
Because
so.
he reminded me a lot of Raz's voice
Yeah,
actor.
it sounded similar, definitely.
Yeah. But getting more into Psychonauts, like did
Hmm.
you happen to replay the game when you were kind of getting ready to do your retelling, or how did that process work for you?
So the last time I replayed it myself was a couple years ago. I got it for like $5 on the PlayStation Network, and I played it through then. And then recently, my girlfriend was playing through it on my recommendation for our, video blog channel. So I rewatched a whole lot of it, and then I refreshed myself a little bit on Wikipedia just to remind myself of names of things.
Which is always important. Thank God for Wikipedia.
Yes, and I think there was a whole Psychonauts Wikipedia. Apparently, somebody thought it was important enough to develop every single character's information onto a web page.
Well, everything needs a wiki now. Like no excuses. Like no matter how small something is, like even if it comes out day one, it's gonna have a wiki, which I'm
So
okay with. If
yeah.
yeah, which yeah, I actually like when I got it on Steam. I think that was the last time I replayed Psychonauts. But I recently have been watching. I went through like a whole kind of LP of Psychonauts again to kind of freshen myself up.
Hmm.
I kind of forget how funny a lot of the. Well, I guess that before I get to that, can you talk about just sort of your. I guess what are your favorite parts of Psychonauts as a whole? Not just like story wise, but gameplay.
I think my favorite bits are the weird kind of optional dark stuff you end up encountering. Like if you're just listening to every random thing that people
Yeah,
say, it's a very dark, messed up Tim Schafer sense of humor that's really funny. And then if you find all the people's memories in their brains locked up in the safes, those are
that's
all
right.
really kind of like dark, disturbing. Like Mila's in particular stands out in my mind,
Oh
where it's like
God.
she like worked in an orphanage and all the orphans died, and now she's like dance party lady. It's just like, oh, geez,
She's got
that's
to find a way. I actually missed
messed
that
up.
like the first time I played through it, and then when
Oh yeah,
I
me
kind of
too.
heard stuff, I just thought people were lying. I was like, "That's bullshit." No, I that's not in the game. And then I replayed it like a while ago, and I was like, "Oh God, it's true."
Yeah, and then
It,
if you're in that room with all like the abandoned rocking horses, she's just like, "Come out of there, darling. Leave that alone."
yeah, because then you just hear all the voices like, "You abandoned us."
Yeah.
So it was a horrifying.
Ugh.
Then the like the Psycho Master. I'm forgetting his name. He's the
Ford
janitor
Crawler.
and yeah, that's right. 'Cause, like when he first like talked to him like in the little secret base area, he just like says, "Oh, I'm just pretending to not notice you." But then when you find out more that his memory's all fucked up.
He's delusional.
He's delicious. It's sad. He's my favorite grandpa in
Yeah.
that game.
And
I
then he
just
pop.
love. Yeah, I love a lot of the characters in that game. Really. Do you have a favorite?
I'd say Dogen's my favorite,
Okay.
not main guy, just because he's the little kid who got sent to the camp because he
Yeah.
accidentally blows up people's heads.
He has that little nasally voice. He doesn't want.
TV.
I love. I remember being kind of interested in that bully character
Oh,
because
jeez.
the guy with the afro
Yeah, Bob,
because he
you're
reminded
Billy.
me a lot of Roger from Doug.
Mm.
Because I don't know why every time I see like a bully character just like a weird like blue or green
Yeah.
skin
Well,
color, I get kind of
yeah.
excited.
And
Because
orange hair, right?
oh,
Doesn't the
that's
guy
right,
Doug
yeah,
have weird colored hair or no?
yeah, weird color hair. I think they both had red hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both just assholes for no reason. Just like, oh, like I'm gonna beat you up. But honestly, I think one of my favorite characters is not even like a real character, but it's like one of the enemies. It's the psychic bears.
Oh yeah, just hanging around the forest.
That's probably one of my favorite enemies in a game ever because I would never imagine like a bear having psychic powers. Like that just every time I see it, I just kind of crack up, but I always get scared because they murder me instantly.
Oh yeah, no, right? Like if you run into one of those early on, you get wrecked real
Oh,
hard.
you get fucked. Oh,
But
it's either that or when you try to like do platforming above water, but if you drop too many times, like the
nope.
hand gets out.
Oh god, that just goes back to so many awful. For whatever reason, me and water in video games don't mix. Like I hate every water level in a Mario game.
Oh
I
God.
would freak out when playing Banjo Kazooie on the level with the sharks.
Oh.
Like utterly, I was terrified of going near water in video games. And then in Psychonauts, water murders you. I'm like, water's just evil. Apparently, I like swimming myself, but in video games, it don't mix.
Yeah, especially which leads to what are your thoughts on the water level in Psychonauts, the lake monster fight? What'd you think of that
Uh,
one?
that's a fairly tedious one to do, just because you're like controlling the camera, or you're not controlling the camera. It's at such a weird angle, and it's just forcing you around in different places. And I've never been a big fan of like the imposing wall of doom behind you, especially when there's like random stuff constantly falling on you. So I found that level way tedious. But right at the end of the tunnel, when you finally get into Linda the fish's brain, I love that level where you're,
Oh my God.
yeah, Lungfishopolis is probably my favorite brain level, just
I
on the
yeah.
genre.
I love that you call yourself you're called Goggalore.
Gogglor.
Goggle. You just talk. You
Coach
first talk to that
Hammer!
fish, and he talks so loud he dies. He's like, "Oh God, my ears!" Oh! And the second guy looks just like him, just goes, "He's dead." Just, he doesn't give a shit because it's all for the cause.
Oh yeah, that one pokes fun at a lot of good stuff. It like because when you're like talking to the revolutionaries, they're like, "Here, help us get on this blimp. We're gonna start passing out flyers from the sky."
That level honestly reminded me of one of my. I liked it so much because it reminded me of one of my favorite PS2 games that doesn't get a lot of love. It's Did you ever play War of the Monsters?
No, we are the monsters.
War of the Monsters.
War of the Monsters. No, I've never heard of that. I'll have to check it out.
War of the Monsters. Give viewers at home, if you'd liked a game where you get to play as a giant monster like themed from the 50s, and at the same
A
time you're in
kaiju.
these levels that are entirely destructible, and you have a bunch of people you can just step on. They're like little tiny people that you have like a little and you can just step on them, just smush.
So is it like Rampage esque, or is it just
It is kind of Rampage esque. It's like a giant fighting game.
okay?
It's a giant fighting game. It's giant monsters, but you have like an entire city that you can destroy that
Oh,
uses like
okay.
weapons.
Yeah.
You can climb up with them. You can grab like antenna poles and throw them at people.
Okay. One quick tangent. Did you ever play like the GameCube Godzilla fighting
Oh
game?
yeah, is that Destroy All Monsters?
Yeah, I think so. That one was
Oh,
good.
I played that too. Yeah, like
Yeah,
anything
because
that
that.
lets me like roam around in a city and blow things up is like
Yup.
awesome. Which is why when Psychonauts lets you do that is great.
Oh
But
yeah.
Psychonauts in general has a lot of experimentation in terms of what like all the different ways you can play the game,
Mm-hmm.
like in each of the dream levels. Like I remember really being into the Napoleon level you were talking about, and
Oh
your
yeah.
when it's styled just like there's what's the board like one of those board.
Catan.
Yeah, that's right. It's like Catan. It's exactly like with the little hexagon things and the way
Yep.
you
And the different.
move.
Yeah, the different like countryside and all that other stuff.
Yeah, it's just I always found that to be really neat. That's a thing that I've seen before in like other how at least how Double Fine and Tim Schafer games try to experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least I would say there's Psychonauts, and then there is
Brutal
gosh, I
Legend.
yeah, Brutal Legend does that too in terms of, although that's for some people that's kind of a downside how it kind of switches from an action to kind of an RTS style.
I haven't actually played that one. It's been on my list of I should probably try that
It's
sometime.
an interesting game. I would highly recommend you just trying it out to see for yourself what your
Yeah.
views on that. It's really neat. It's again Jack Black's recurrent. I
Mm-hmm.
think that was the first time Jack Black voice acted.
Pretty sure.
Yeah, that was his first time. Then they loved him so much they brought him back for Broken Age.
Yeah, because
But
that was like 08, 09.
yeah, that's right. That was I think that was PS3 360 area.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Definitely.
but yeah, I did always like that. But the basic platforming, I had no major issues with. Although um I will say there are some times when due to sometimes the bugginess of the game, the
Mm-hmm.
platforming can be a bit of a hassle. Uh,
Yeah, definitely. It falls into that. It's one step above like Kingdom Hearts platforming,
oh God.
where like the jumps are a bit more accurate. You can actually do multiple jumps, but it's still just like how big is this platform in actuality? I know how big the polygon looks, but the physics engine, when is it going to say I'm falling off?
and then
Is
and then sometimes just the random little bugs that happens in between with
yeah.
it just especially in the last level the meat circus.
Oh geez, and you're just like, okay, I need to keep twirling around and climbing up to save the little boy whose bunny's getting murdered.
Oh God. To be honest, on the PS2 version, I was never able to beat that. It took until the Steam version for me to actually because the Steam version they actually made a patch to make it easier.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's kind of the upside of the PC version for people who may be down on Psychonauts for being too buggy. They patched some things out. They took some time to fix some things. So the meat circus is a lot easier now to
Okay.
actually go through.
That's good to know.
Hmm. So if you ever get like a computer that can run that, just that's high recommendation. The circus is a lot easier.
Yeah, I feel like most computers people would be using with Steam can probably run Psychonauts at this point.
I would hope so.
Like I have a Mac Mini and I can run some pretty decent things of like that generation on Steam just fine.
I mean, yeah, that's. I mean, I can run Psychonauts on my. I have like my almost 5 year old MacBook,
Yeah. So
but
go out and get Psychonauts, no excuses.
yeah, that's basically it. I mean, that your story alone is just proof you should get Psychonauts,
But
but of course that's That's if people who are listening in didn't already play it. That's the weird thing.
I bet it's was that I was listening to some podcasts and they kept throwing out the statistic that like only 20% of PS3 owners ever played Uncharted. I bet that number's way smaller for Psychonauts, so everyone can get out there and play it.
That's very true. To be fair, the original Uncharted is honestly kind of shit.
I'm one of those people who never played an Uncharted game. However, I now own all of them for a total of $10.
Oh wow, I highly recommend Uncharted 2. Is a lot of fun. I will say its platforming is better than Psychonauts,
Okay, I would hope so.
As far as being charming, it's not nearly as charming as Psychonauts. I'll say that.
It's hard to live up to it. I feel like that's kind of Tim Schafer, and Double Fine's priority is making an enjoyable ambiance
Very true.
and kooky characters.
Yeah, then just being able to have just good writing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what you go for a Tim Schafer game. You don't really. I don't go into Day to Tentacle and go, excuse me, where's the first person shooter mechanic?
These puzzles seem a little unrealistically difficult at times.
I don't go into Broken Age and go, where's the cover mechanic? I don't worry about gameplay in Schafer stories, like really. I mean, I guess I could see why some people would just want to watch an LP instead of playing it, but
yeah.
I feel like for Psychonauts, you really have to play it to experience it. Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of joy as far as just going through and just seeing all these different changes to the gameplay mechanics. It's just you can't really experience it with an LP alone. You kind of have to feel it.
Yeah, it also, I mean, I know I was kind of half insulted by saying it was only a step above Kingdom Hearts, but it really is fairly smooth as far as, running around. If you can go back and enjoy things like, Super Mario 64, this is definitely, a step above that in many ways just because it's of a later generation. So
yeah.
I'd say it's not that bad. It's just, kind of a couple of moments where you're like in a cramped room and you can't really see where you're jumping to, and then you get annoyed.
But there's that. But I really for the end, like the real reason you're playing is you're playing for the characters, and they're great.
Yeah, definitely.
I love them all. I really just love Raz's introduction, like his intro scene, because when he jumps in and when he lands perfectly and he has that like arm cross, kind of like a 90s pose.
Yeah.
But
his badass circa 2005 pose.
Everyone calls me Raz. And it's like if this was like a game that tried to take itself too seriously, it would have had like some guitar twang or something. It's like wow Raz. But instead it just had the kid go Lake Monster. That's the kind of thing I love. It's just like they let the kid have kind of a cool entrance, but they don't like give it to him straight. They keep acknowledging he's just a kid.
Yeah, an extremely talented acrobatic kid, but still a kid.
He's still a kid. You can't just go to a. I love how you mentioned your story. Just you can't just go to a camp without signing up. That's not how it works.
That's partially just because I run programs for children, so I'm just like, no, if I were in charge of this camp, that kid wouldn't be here.
You wouldn't let him go to Sasha's secret special missions and.
I'm also not a psychic, so extenuating circumstances, but it bugged me.
Oh yeah, but I mean, that camp has a lot more problems though than just one runaway kid though.
The fact that only 4 people work there.
Yeah, well, the psych bears, the fact that their main guy wants to rip out kids' brains.
Yep,
until the end. I feel like it's got a lot of.
There's a weird asylum in the middle of the lake that they seem to just ignore.
And there's a giant lake monster, and there's a dentist that will rip out your brain so you can talk about
Dr. Lobato.
Dr. Lobato, and then
Domo arigato.
And then
Shigor.
Shigor, who's voiced by Bubbles.
Oh yeah, no, I pointed that out to my girlfriend. I was just like, "Hey, you know who that is? That's Bubbles." And she was like, "What?" Just because she'll pop up in the weirdest characters on cartoons and games. Because it's either adorable or cute or just totally creepy.
That's like the one voice where I'm trying to remember if she's that voice actress appeared in anything else from Tim Schafer, and I can't think of anything. Because
Um,
I don't think she appears in Broken Age unless she's really good and she didn't do
I
the
don't I
Bubbles
don't
voice.
remember that. I mean, I feel like she's and probably in everything she is, they use her squeaky voice at least once. I can't see how they couldn't when they already have her in the booth.
Yeah, it's like it's not really like with Tara Strong when you have her do several voices. It's like it's kind of like no one know if you do your thing, you do your voice that we pay you
Yeah,
for. That or Spike Spencer, or that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's even like a lot of voice actors are super recognizable. Like Tom Kenny, half the time, even though he's got decent range, I can still be like, that's a Tom Kenny voice because it's got a wee bit of like SpongeBob in it or a little bit of Ice King.
Oh yeah.
So I think voice actors they can't fully mask their signature timbre or whatever. But she's great, and she's like in love with a turtle in this game.
I love the turtle has turns out to have like a really deep voice, and I
Oh
also love how you
yeah,
can just show off the turtle to everyone in the game if you want to. It's just like,
yeah. They
is it
really built in a lot of stuff that you don't exploit unless you're like, oh, I actually want to mess with everything because you can just like. I was looking through the wiki, and they were like, here, if you show this item to this person, they will say this. And I was like, whoa, I never would have done that.
Yeah, I wish I showed everyone Mr. Tokiloke, but I think I just wanted to get the game done.
Well, yeah,
I didn't want to separate her. I didn't want to separate her from her precious turtle,
yep.
who may
Well,
or may
yeah,
not be
you
her
don't get
lover.
them until like the very end. So it's like, why would you run around doing other stuff when you could just like throw the turtle in the thing and get on with the end of the game right there?
Yeah, I didn't want anyone to suffer any longer. I wanted to
Blow up
beat up
Mr. Lovato.
Coach Oleander and his brain tank.
Yep, but he gets a full on redemption like right away. They don't even like question it. He's like, "Oh, I'm all fixed. Thanks, guys."
I love that part. It's just like, well, I was just messed up, but now I'm okay. And then like right when stuff goes wrong again, it's like, hey, you saw me. I didn't do anything.
Brought to you by childhood trauma.
It's like, see, kids, just have a kid get in your brain. You can get away with anything.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah, but and then they had the big old sequel hook that never happened.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, they definitely end on a big. It's like The Incredibles, which came out at a similar time. They both have like this big like, oh look, we're gonna set it up like more adventures are to come in your mind because we're not gonna make anything else.
Yeah, it's it's better to dream, I guess, than to have a disappointing sequel.
I know, but
But yeah, still that is kind of lame. Like of
so many
all the
good
stuff that
characters.
gets like a relaunch or a sequel. Like why not Psychonauts? Give Psychonauts a chance. Like anything's possible. I mean, Star Trek, it's getting a relaunch. I don't know.
That's true. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on. But I guess the real issue would be that since Psychonauts is owned by a small-ish game studio rather than owned by Sony, who can dish it out to whichever studio's open at the moment, that makes it a lot harder for them to do sequels.
Yeah, that I'm not sure who actually. I think there was also the question of who has some of the rights to Psychonauts still.
Really?
I think that was part of the issue because I think what they may have had trouble with was just trying to see who still has the rights of publishing. I don't
Okay.
know if they fixed that with the Steam version, but I think I remember that was something that popped up because that happens all the time with like old games or at least games that are
Yeah.
10 years old that are never getting a sequel.
Hmm.
Like there's did you ever remember the game the No One Lives Forever? It's like a
That doesn't ring a bell to
that doesn't.
me.
I'm trying to let me see if I can think of another one that because this happens a lot to be honest.
Okay.
Like
Yeah, I
they're
mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
it's just like developers keep trying to like kind of get their projects back from like an Activision or EA or whatever, and they keep holding on for whatever reason or another. It's just kind of weird.
Well, it's because allowing somebody else to make a profit off of something that you're just sitting on would be considered a dumb move, I guess.
Yeah, which I find that's kind of sad.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like yeah, we're not going to use it because we don't necessarily think it's profitable, but we're not going to give it to you because what if it is profitable? Then we just made a new competitor for ourselves. I'm guessing it's that mentality, but it's hard to get around that. You just need people to keep making good stuff.
Okay, I think I'm cheating right now. I am looking up the rights issue for
How
for
dare you not know all the details of the
I did
story?
not do my research at this part, but I can edit this part out. I can just do my voice saying like I remember this. I just now.
I'm just gonna keep referring back to this conversation so that you have to keep it in.
Yeah,
Just otherwise
I'm
people
just
will
gonna
be
keep
really
it. I'm
confused.
just gonna have
Hey,
like
remember that time you had to look up a thing 5 minutes ago?
I'm just gonna like edit your voice and just like, wow, Jack, you just know everything, don't you? I sure do, Peter. I'm so smart.
You're a
I know
genius when it comes to video
everything.
game law.
But it's they essentially they were able to start getting back like the rights about 2011 or so because Majesco was the publisher originally. I think they kind of went under. It's kind of weird trying to think back to like all the publishers that used to be around, at least
Mm-hmm.
prevalent like 10 years ago, and how they're just kind of gone now. Like THQ.
Yeah.
I don't think Atari does any publishing anymore.
I think. Hold on. I don't know. I just bought an Atari game, by which I mean I got Centipede on my cell phone because I love Centipede. Um, so I don't know. They probably do something.
Yeah, it's like because I remember they used to like they used to publish like Transformers games or something, but now it's like it's Activision owns that. I feel like
Yeah.
Atari's still around, but they can't really publish anything big anymore.
Yeah. Well, then
Yes.
you can bring up all kinds of. I mean, and then you keep hearing stories about things like Konami, which. Wait, am I saying that right? Am I thinking of the
Yeah,
right place? Yeah,
Konami.
Konami, where
Yeah.
they're like, God, Kojima. They're losing Kojima. I keep on forgetting Japanese names, which is the
Yeah.
biggest problem I have in my life right now. I can't remember Japanese names. Um, but yeah, well, it's just like, oh, will that be a downhill slide for them, or do they have enough other business that people don't ever think about that they're totally fine?
Okay, I made like the final look to just make sure. Apparently, Psychonauts they don't technically own.
Oh,
What happened is that there's a group called Nordic Games that technically this was after THQ went bankrupt, so they kind of help them out with releasing like publishing and distributing them.
uh huh.
But to apparently it's still that don't really have full. It doesn't seem like they have full control. Like they sort of have the rights to it, but they still need help with really just publishing it.
Okay.
That's so. I guess the thing is like they do and they don't. They
Yeah.
most like they all this legal talk is really confusing the Psychonauts with a lot of these games. It's oh you own the game, but not quite. It really
Yeah.
makes things worse when companies shut down and then everything's up for grabs.
Oy. Why,
Yeah.
why can't everything just be a perfect world where if somebody has a great idea, they can make it?
Well, I mean, there's that's what's Kickstarter for. That's what Broken Age is, I guess. It's
Based on things that might be owned by other people.
yeah, it's funded by viewers like you.
I got a great idea for a Mickey Mouse cartoon. Why can't I use that?
Yeah, or that's
Thanks, Disney.
thanks Disney. I mean, that's what happens. You either you make stuff while you can before the companies eat up your progress and work and rip out your name.
Yeah. Also, you know what Atari still makes?
What do they make?
Roller Coaster Tycoon. I just went to their website. Their entire banner is like four different kinds of roller coaster tycoon.
Those are all like cell phone now, right?
And a game, I probably, yeah. I mean, how
Can you
many people
imagine
are
if
doing
like
casual games on the PC still?
Can you imagine if like Psychonauts, like if like the alternate future, like the bad alternate future, when someone just brought whoever owns the licensing wasn't like Tim Schafer, but it was like someone who made like a phone franchise. But
King owns Psychonauts.
it'd be like it'd be like a camp tycoon where you just make sure the kids don't get eaten by psychic bears.
Oh, jeez.
And
The
then
future.
Raz is just like your little like phone guy, and he goes like, "Hey, don't you want to buy some in-game currency?"
Hey, we got the license to show old Invader Zim episodes if you want to do that.
You'll buy like the special arrowheads. You'll buy the gold arrowheads for $1.99 each.
Ugh.
And if you want to get like all the stuff, you need to buy the badges, which are like $20.
Yeah.
Like I could just see that now. Oh God. See, it's just sometimes some things just be left dead.
Yeah, you got a really great game. It's available on Steam, therefore you'll have it for, ever effectively, at
And
least foreseeable forever.
forever and ever, as long as Valve never shuts down.
Never shut down Valve.
Never shut down Valve, or at least hope that I have no idea if Psychonauts is on Good Old Games. If it's on Good Old Games, that essentially it's DRM free.
Okay.
So if it make, because I know there's some games by, maybe not Double Fine, but by the other LucasArts teams at the time, where they have it in Good Old Games. So if you buy it, you essentially can own it forever if you just keep backing it up forever.
Yeah.
So I feel like Psychonauts should be on Good Old Games if it isn't already. Viewers at home, why don't you check? Just
look this up yourselves. Damn it, we're tired.
Well, look it up. Go. You can at me at my Twitter, Hendrixtrog, and tell me, hey, it's on Good Old Games, and I'll say fuck off, and I'll block you.
He's gonna go Dan Harmon on
I got
your
no
ass.
time. But I feel like this is the I feel like this is the proper length for talking about Psychonauts. Do you have any final words about Psychonauts other than buy it if you don't own it already?
Yeah, definitely check it out as it's now 10 years old. Go Psychonauts. Therefore, it's officially retro in my book.
Woo, retro!
So play it because it's a widely available retro game. It's fun.
Yeah, it's very fun. Now, you mentioned your blog there. Would you like to go ahead and promote your shit?
Yeah, I will plug myself. My name is Peter Hanneman. I tweet things at Nerd in the World. And then my blog and YouTube channel is called Game and Read, where my girlfriend and I, twice a month, read a book and play a game and try to put them together in some weird way, including Psychonauts.
That's right. That's exactly why I recommended this to you.
Yes, because I was going to do something else, and then he's like, hey, you just did this, so just don't make more work for yourself, and that was awesome. So yeah, check us out there. It's a fun time.
It is a fun time. I highly recommend it. Great stuff there. Finished it in me. Just go to my Twitter at Hendrixtrog. This is what I got right now. I'm managing this. Next week, or not next week, hell no. I don't know. This is not going to be weekly. I'm going to try for monthly. I feel like I can do it monthly. I already have this next episode recorded. I won't say it yet. It'll be kind of a surprise.
I'm excited because I'm pretty sure I know who the guest is.
We'll see. Yeah, hopefully he or she will not spoil anything. Hopefully he confirm things, but if not, there may not be a second segment. Maybe I'll just talk to myself for 30 minutes about this certain game I'm doing, but
I'll just pretend to be that person. It'll work out perfectly.
It'll be great. Go. So, we'll do we could do I'll tell you about it when we do after the official cut. So, woo! Thank you all for listening. Drunk Game Retellings. I'm Jack, and he's Peter. We may see you together next time, but you'll definitely see me next time.
Dun,
and music cue. Yo, this is the end. This is the end of the podcast. No more content. No content. Just no content in sight. Yeah, sorry about that. There's just nothing left here. I can't find anything else to say about these video games here. And I'm sober too, so this is just a big old waste. Big old waste to go any further. Besides music, we don't have any much left, so after this, bye.